Well, welcome everyone. My name is Greg Heffron. I'm the uh, co-director and co-founder of Mudra Institute that I started with my own teacher and mentor, Craig Warren Smith, a number of years ago. And we're very excited to start offering these online talks. And I'm giving the talk today, despite the fact that I have a cold and I'm feeling quite feverish. Um, and that's going to be fine. We're going to work with that. It's very mudra to just go forward regardless. The point of this talk is to connect with those who are interested in mudra space awareness, because we're spread out over a lot of territory on this planet. There's quite a few of us, but we're really spread out. To kind of galvanize that interest, and also to help make people aware of the really wonderful upcoming program with Suzanne Tuquette at Karma Choling in April. So so let's actually just begin by becoming present. And the power of mudra, the power of the very curious approach of mudra space awareness, is that everything's very simple. So when we say becoming present, there's not a lot of steps involved. There's not a lot of instructions. We could just remember the simplest truths of our experience in the present moment. That we are in a body. And this body is receiving a lot of sensory experience. That the eyes are receiving colors and shapes and reflections of light. That there's a kind of soft swarm of sound coming in through the ears. Sounds near and far. Loud and subtle. That the body has a play of tactile experience, pressure, temperature, comfort, discomfort. And that these senses, along with taste and smell, of course, that there's a kind of field of presence, sensory presence, that we can rest in. Just for a moment, we cease asking the senses, what are you going to do for me? And we just began to listen. This has a quality of, one could say, cleaning the senses, clarifying all of the concepts that we lay on top of our senses from the actual sensory experience itself. And the sensory experience itself is so simple. It's so reliable. You could even say it's so good. All of our self-opinions, all of our various anxieties and concerns about past and future, those are all quite separate from the senses. So just for a moment, we could dip into the kind of refreshment of a more direct relationship with the primary way that we know anything. Seeing, hearing, touching, all of it. So let's go ahead and just bow in to begin then, from that point of refreshment. I'm so happy that there's interest in mudra space awareness. I'm hoping that others watch this video who can't show up today for various reasons. And you know, people have a variety of backgrounds with mudra. Let's see, in terms of show of hands. So you may have to, if you don't want to turn on your camera, you could just chat in the chat box. So how many people have done mudra? Just say yes or no in the chat box, or no. Steve says, Peter says no. Jude?
I have to unmute. No.
No, okay. All right, great. And my friend Chin has done quite a lot of mudra. And yeah, so mudra space awareness, for those who haven't done it, is a utterly unique upaya, right? That's like Sanskrit for method. It's a whole system in which we work in a very direct, experimental way with our experience. It was originally designed by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche in the early 70s, coming out of a very surreal collaboration of where essentially he combined his training in Tibetan monastic dance, which is a very powerful yogic practice which takes the form of dance, looks like dance, expresses itself in a certain way like dance, but in some ways the yogic truth of the practice is the deeper truth. And then he combined this with really cutting edge theater techniques of the 1970s, particularly, weird improvisational exploratory theater that was happening at the time. And so, it's I always delight in the fact that it's got such ancient roots going back thousands of years, and then also super modern inspiration as well. There's something very modern about mudra space awareness, and yet it does connect you in because of this deep yogic heart inside the practices. It connects you into something very, very powerful, but without a lot of requirements to hold a particular view, and without a lot of steps that seem foreign, so to speak. They're just very direct. They're very human. And I've taught this in different cultures, and in different cultures, it's the same in a way, because in different cultures, you still have seeing and hearing, and, you still have your body, and you still have the experience of your body in space, right? So it's called mudra space awareness. And the senses play a big part in it. And then the awareness of space is a big part as well. Awareness of space is a kind of koan in mudra space awareness that, it comes out of the Tibetan Vajrayana tradition, that the mind is not just limited to this, that in fact the mind, how is this possible from our perspective, modern perspective, but that the mind could inhabit space itself. The mind could actually sort of, leak out of this little container, break out of this little cage that we have it in, and could actually experience the kind of stability of space, the vastness of space, the equanimity of space. And there's all these, ancient Tibetan metaphors, or actually probably Indian metaphors, about the nature of space, that space is indestructible. You fire an arrow through space, it doesn't cause space any harm. Nobody can burn space or, crush it. Nobody can steal it, And the idea is that, what is space? Space is what is outside of any little container. It's not a container. It's something far beyond any idea of a container. I mean, really think about that. Like right now you're in a room, and that room has space. And then, you go out through the walls or up through the ceiling or down through the floor, and there's more space, and then you keep going and on and all the way through the whole planet. This is actually one of our exercises we do in Mudra Space Awareness. And this is the abbreviated version. Right, and beyond the planet is more space, and then beyond the solar system is more space, and beyond the galaxy is more space, and on and on and on. Space is not really conceivable. That's the important part. It's inconceivable. And the idea is that there's an automatic link between the nature of our mind, the way it actually is, the way it's just is, the way it's built, and that kind of inconceivable vastness. So we're working with that. It's an interplay back and forth through physical exercises. Mudra space awareness is a physical activity. It's not just a mental activity. It's not just a kind of visualization activity. It's not just meditation. So let's get into what mudra space awareness is. And there's 4 categories of exercises. There's intensification exercises, which I'll describe in a moment. There's sensory awareness exercises. There's movement exercises. And then there's group or interactive exercises. So intensification exercises are the hard work of mudra space awareness. And there's really no such thing as mudra space awareness without it. Like sometimes we'll break out and we'll do other exercises from mudra space awareness without intensification. However, intensification, if you don't do intensification, it's sort of it's a little bit not real mudra. Intensification exercises involve using every muscle in your entire body to the maximum extent possible. They're a kind of very powerful series of isometric contractions with a very particular purpose. That in intensification exercise, one goes through a visualization, but instead of just being mental, this has a physical component, that you are using your muscles. And this is that kind of secret yogic heart of mudra space awareness. This is something coming out of those, Indian and Tibetan Vajrayana traditions, where they really understood subtle truths about how the mind and body work together. And they figured out kind of back doors into direct experience. And intensification exercise is one of those back doors. And if anybody describes it to you, like I'm describing it to you now, it doesn't sound particularly appealing. And in fact, it's not particularly appealing. It's not pleasurable. If you experience it as pleasurable, there's something you're doing wrong. You're probably not really doing it. Intensification practice has a little bit of a life or death quality that is deliberate. It's when actually the visualization that comes with this, which I can just only recommend trying, because it's really a unique experience. Even if you hate it, it's a unique experience. But for those of us who love it, the reason we love it is because through this intricate setup of this visualization, the physicalization, how you're using your intention, there's this quality that very quickly one can come into a kind of powerful relationship with one's own direct experience in a way that's very similar to doing a long meditation retreat. So a good friend of mine once said, you do it for 4 minutes and you feel like you just walked out of a 30-day retreat. So it's not easy. Those 4 minutes are not easy. You will remember how hard they are. But actually, the irony is that through this kind of tricky backdoor genius of the Vajrayana tradition, there's, there's a way, even in the midst of total overwhelm, discomfort, flexing one's muscles powerfully for a few minutes is quite uncomfortable, that there's a flip that happens. And this flip is to actually find peace right in the middle of that discomfort, like directly in the middle of it. Like you're not 1 degree away from it. That there's a way to actually experience utterly intense experience, and in this case, mostly at a bodily level, although also at an emotional level, and find complete stability and spaciousness. And so this flip, when it happens, is that one experiences that intensity and spaciousness are 2 sides of the same coin, that it's not a problem either way. And this is incredibly inspiring when it happens. And, when you first do it, it may take a few tries. Some people never try it enough to really reach that point. And it's unfortunate, because once you get it, then you can do intensification practice and actually reach that stage every single time. And once that happens, you start to crave this practice, this unpleasant practice. You actually begin to crave it because it's such a celebration, a kind of victory, a very, it's minor victory, but still it's a very real victory over one of the primordial fears we have as human beings, which is that this is all too intense. It's too hard. Things will happen and I won't know what's going to happen, and I'm stressed and I'm going to die, for real. Or, what if things go in a way I don't want? What if I get criticized? Blah, blah, blah. And it's this sense that reality is coming at us like this. And it's crushing in, and we can really conceptualize our universe this way. And so intensification allows us to flip that completely. And suddenly that becomes this incredibly powerful statement of total presence right in the midst of that, just absolutely at one's limit, that there's an opening out that's possible. That's such a celebration. So then in terms of the other mudra space awareness exercises, sensory explorations, we find out that by really going into the senses we discover that the senses are not what we've ever thought they were. That in fact the senses are incredibly vast and incredibly spacious. Movement exercises have a similar quality. The most basic movements have incredible vastness. Just walking, just very simple, taking steps on a flat floor, moving past other people in the room. There's a real sense of magic that's not it's not mental. It's not like I'm trying to imagine this as magic. It's sort of the opposite of that. It's when we drop a kind of facade, like this continuous facade that we, embroider around our reality to make us feel better. The irony is that when we drop that, there's magic. And then the interactive exercises deliver a sense of surprise and spontaneity. They bring us out of our shell because we're not in this universe by ourselves. We're in it with others. And there's a sense of being able to practice with others, practice that kind of spontaneity. And, to realize the fruition in some ways of all of the rest of what you've been practicing through the other exercises, which is that there's something fundamentally trustworthy in our experience. And it really doesn't matter what's going on. It literally doesn't matter. You could be having the best day ever, or you could be being stalked by a hungry lion. You are still having your human experience, and there's something fundamentally trustworthy either way. And I think that's it. Mudra gives one a kind of unshakable trust in experience. And I don't use that word lightly. There is an unshakability. And that unshakability allows us a much greater sense of humor. And also, we become less easy to push around in a good way. So, there's sort of patience, inscrutability, the ability to outweight something, but stay present. These things are very practical. They're actually very practical things to learn. And if you learn them with your body, you remember them. They're not like, it's not like trying to remember the 7 steps to blah, blah, blah. Right? It's in you. It's imprinted, we say, imprinted in you. So I do want to talk a little bit about the upcoming program at Karma Choling with Acharya Suzanne Duquette. She's a senior teacher of Mudra Space Awareness. And a fantastic teacher, in a fantastic location. Mudra Space Awareness, you could say Karma Choling was sort of, it's sort of one of the primary nesting grounds of Mudra Space Awareness. It's really a place where it's been practiced and practiced and practiced. I was lucky enough to do a 10-day retreat with Craig Warren Smith and Suzanne Duquette back in 2007. It's just really one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. And Lee Worley too, actually. Lee Worley, who's also one of the wonderful senior teachers, taught the first 3 days of that as well. And to do a long Mudra Space Awareness retreat in an incredible environment like that, they often do it in the pavilion, for those who know Karma Choling. Wonderful space with lots of light pouring in, high ceilings, and to really open up to the space in that rich environment, the gorgeous green hills of Vermont. And with the kind of settled nature of that space is just, it's sort of, inexpressible. So for anybody who would just want to take a chance, I don't think you would be disappointed. And I've been to a number of longer Mudra space awareness programs, and people do just show up. They've never even done it before, and they just show up and do, 8 days or something, 10 days. And you really see people transform. I will say that. I don't think I've ever seen a situation with Mudra space awareness where somebody walked out saying, yeah. So, we have a few minutes left. I know I've talked quite a lot. And I do want just a little bit of time for questions and answers. Let's see, I'm getting a question from Peter. Aren't I going to give the practice? No, I'm not going to. It can't be done, actually. Mudra space awareness is it's a series of practices. So there's probably maybe 60 different exercises. So when we dropped into presence at the start, it's a little bit sort of flavored by Mudra space awareness, but we really can't do it here together. This was more of an inspiration for those who are interested. And also for those who want programs. Let's see, they used to be given in special rooms, different shapes and colors. That's Maitri space awareness. They're very commonly mistaken for each other. Maitri space awareness is an incredible set of practices as well, and completely different. Almost 100% different. They're great. They're both brilliant. Are there any other questions or inspirations? Is that Chin? Yeah, please.
Yeah, my experience with Mudra space awareness is that, we do a program and then later on in between, there's nothing happening. So I think that we need to kind of create a way to, like we have Shambhala guide, stuff like that. They're not allowed to teach anything, but to kind of like hold the practice.
Yeah.
So I think we need that desperately.
Yeah.
And give them a title position, Mudra space awareness guide or something like that, so that we can keep the practice going, because in between the teaching, there's nothing for a very long time.
Right.
And also listening to your talk today, I feel like, oh my God, everybody gonna come down, especially in this situation in Shambhala, gonna come down to take space awareness just because of what's happening right now. So maybe retitle it is that, I don't know, something like embodied confusion or something like that.
I like that. Embodied confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chen. Yeah, I agree completely. I think what you're saying is very, very true. There's often a real gap because there's not a lot of teachers to teach programs. So then there's not a lot of programs. And then in between, there's these awkward gaps where nothing happens and people kind of lose their connection. And then, it's 4 years later or 10 years later that they get to the next program. So I think what you're saying is very important, and we have really been thinking about that and working on that at Mudra Institute, about thinking about how to spread that out. This is really we're at the beginning stages of that, but hoping to move forward. And it's, I want to say that it's a little bit complicated in the sense that there's there's several schools of mudra space awareness, and these different schools are quite unique, and they're powerful in different ways. They express mudra space awareness in different ways. And on the one hand, there's this incredible diversity of these different schools. There's 2 or maybe 3 schools. But the problem is it makes it a little complicated to pull everybody together, because actually the practices are a little bit different. They're done a little bit different. Some practices don't even happen over here that happen over here, and vice versa. And kind of how the sequence of things happens is different. And so in some ways, it just slows things down in terms of organizing, training people to serve that kind of role that you're talking about. So we're thinking these things through. We're having a lot of conversations behind the scenes. But yeah, right now in Shambhala, embodied confusion, Mudra Space Awareness Program, I think, is kind of what we all need, frankly. And there's something about crushing intensity, which Mudra Space Awareness deals with head on, and also, the sense of fear, tremendous emotionality, anger, all of these things, terror, heartbreak, all of it just. And the intensification practices alone, I think, are powerful medicine, not to dispel anything, but just actually to transmute that kind of experience from something that we would say is a horrible experience into something that actually has the potential to deliver wisdom. So here for embodied confusion. I don't know that we're going to be able to change Karma Choling's title at this point because it's so late, but there's going to be another one in the fall. I should say that as well. There's actually going to be a 7-day program in the fall at Karma Choling as well. So there's 4-day program coming up, and then a 7-day in the fall that I personally hope to attend. And I hope many of our teachers will attend, actually Mudra Institute teachers. It may be kind of a very powerhouse event for those, maybe the upcoming ones too soon or whatever, but that one in the fall, it's in November. I'd have to look up the weekends, but anyways. Steve Pools, yeah, so Heart Sutra touches on our senses. Any comments about the relationship to that? Yeah, I would think, the Heart Sutra and that quality of, no eye, no nose, no tongue, no body, no minds, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, all of that, right? That there's, that's an experience. What does that mean? That means that what I call seeing, that the word seeing and actually seeing are 2 entirely different things. And then once you take the senses out of the box, once you take them out of this cage, they're not conceivable. They're not concepts. And that's the beauty. It's this, seeing, I know what seeing is. I use it all the time. Use it every single day. It's not even interesting. Blah, blah, blah. I look around, right? But actually seeing outside of the cage is heartbreakingly beautiful experience. Seeing, when almost nothing's happening, hearing, tactile sensations. It's just, we don't need to create some utopian paradise. Like, we have incredible power here. There's incredible joy from this living human experience, which includes pain and difficult emotions and all of that. So, I don't want to go on too long. I said it was going to be a 45-minute talk, and I want to try to stick to that for those who have schedules. But I do want to thank everybody for coming today. Really appreciate your input and presence. And I'll stick around if there's any other, further questions. And we'll try to make this a regular thing. So I'll talk to some of our other teachers and see if I can get, maybe I can get Craig Smith or Suzanne to give the talk next time. And then we'll try to keep up the momentum this way. So let's go ahead and bow out to each other, and just flashing on that same sense of resting in the kind of reliability and vastness of the sense fields. Okay, thank you. And please check out the program if you're interested. It's on Karma Cholling's website.